Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. How y'all doing? Good to see you tonight. It is indictment night. I'm still on my high horse about it. Feeling really good. How you feeling? We got Wicked Foxy Dragon. Hello, just for fun. Hello, the Anticorporatist. Delighted to see you, my friend. Dawned on me. Mars Falcon. Hello, hello. Hi, y'all. Happy after second indictment day. Yes, indeed, dawned on me. Oh, it's been delightful. So I'll tell you what. Right now, I assume Donald Trump is whining about what other people did, saying, "Oh, it ain't fair. It ain't fair. They're coming after me. Oh no." I just don't care. I mean, can we nitpick how well Jack Smith is doing? Yes. Are we going to? Sure. But the main thing has been done. And now it's going to be, really, the reason we're going to be watching it from here on out is to just measure how long it takes the far right of the United States to catch up. How much of the far right is able to be pulled out by just the presenting of facts in court, and how much that affects the far right around the world. Because the U.S. is still a leader in that regard, God help us. But I had a thought creep into my head, and it's become the only thing I'm thinking about regarding this. Now that Trump's beginning to face the music, and it will be a long process that, yeah, we're going to cover thoroughly. But why wasn't I afraid of another January 6th? I mean, I think lone wolf attacks are a serious concern, but why wasn't I afraid of another January 6th? And it dawned on me that Donald Trump was the person inside the building this time and last time. He wasn't out there to rile up the crowd. There wasn't enough of a crowd in New York to rile up, but there was plenty of people there at the beginning now. But he wasn't there because he had to be inside. And there were no Proud Boys there because they have been arrested and charged with terrorism. Sedition. So have the Oath Keepers. You were paying attention to the January 6th committee, or if you got the overview of it, you will have seen that the accusations leveled by the January 6th committee were that Donald Trump was responsible for gathering the crowd, which he did in both these indictments as well. And according to the January 6th committee, he was also responsible for directing the crowd. And then the Oath Keepers, rather strategically, in fact in a coordinated manner, as though they were planning it with somebody, they led the crowd into the building. You see the QAnon shaman, Jacob Chansley, he's recently got out. God help us, they let him out early. He's recently got out, and he's out there saying exactly what you'd expect a psychopathic, MAGA, obsessive to say. He's lying that the police led them in, and then you can see a clip of either Proud Boys or Oath Keepers smashing windows, him watching them do that, and then him going in through the entrance they created. Why does it bum me out? Well, because we've now seen, and God help me, I'm going to have sympathy for a whole bunch of devils here. we've now seen the same thing play out 3 times. And the only time Trump was there to direct the crowd, along with the Oath Keepers, did it result in a bunch of these people getting arrested. We've seen the same crazies. We were watching an interview on Fox, selectively. The Fox reporters trying their best to find a non-crazy person to talk to in that crowd. Couldn't do it. But were they dangerous? No, they walked around with signs. They were misguided. They've been lied to. And without somebody directing them to cause this harm, conning them in the moment, taking advantage of them in the moment to commit crimes. Without that, well, gosh, they didn't commit crimes. We should take that into consideration. And that is why the next thing we need to really care about is that Donald Trump be held accountable for his involvement with January 6th. I know. Next up is likely Fani Willis in August, talking about the state level attempt to overthrow the election, a different wing of the coup. But as much as I don't like him, and I'm about to show you an example of why I don't like the J6 rioters, and why I don't respect them, and why my sympathy for them only goes so far. I think now, with 2 examples, arguably 3 examples, if you consider the civil case, the sexual assault that Trump was found liable for. Trump's crowd required him there to direct them to do crime. And I look at Walt Nauta, that poor bastard, who is now in it as deep as you can be in it, and I see that once again, Trump's habit, his serial crime of directing people to do illegal things that he benefits from shows itself. So let that be a sign of hope that once this guy is over and done with, it's going to be the end of it. At least until the next demagogue shows up. And the way we make sure the next demagogue doesn't show up is that we ensure that Trump meets a grisly end via the legal system. We demonstrate that as a country, as an organized institution, we handle him. That means chains and bars. That is how this is dealt with once and for all. Let's get to the news of the day. Try that again. Well, in case you were wondering if this is spreading around the world, the answer is sadly yes. Got a quick update for you here in the United States. Woman who, in my opinion, murdered a young mother in Florida by, like a coward, shooting her through the door after goading her to be there by using racial slurs against her children. She was arrested. I believe that happened 3 days ago. Yay. It's deeply disappointing that because of stand your ground laws, it took that long. Sheriff really had to think about that one, huh? You insult someone's children, that person comes to talk to you, and then you kill him. Shoot him through a door. Well, it's having an effect around the world. Let's look how our neighbors to the north are behaving. Thank you so much, racists in America. This was originally from a newspaper that I did not think was very reliable, but it was also picked up by Newsweek and confirmed by Newsweek. This apparently sure happened, despite how badly I did not want to believe it. A man in Canada stopped a track meet to accuse a 9-year-old girl of being transgender. Hey, real quick, who cares? If it's a 9-year-old child, who cares what gender they are, truly? What coaches are out there spotting for the next big thing at the age of 9? It was simply an opportunity, I think, for this person to show off what a bigot they were. But nonetheless, let's talk about how this person traumatized a child for life. A children's track and field meet in Kelowna, British Columbia, was interrupted last week when a man allegedly accused a 9-year-old girl of being transgender. The girl competing in the track meet in Kelowna last Thursday was not transgender, but sported a pixie haircut. I like the pixie cut. I hope this doesn't discourage other folks from having it. The day, which started out positive as the girl placed in the discus event, took a dark turn when the man began accusing her of being transgender. The LGBTQ plus community has been thrust into political debates recently instead of just being allowed to live their lives. What the hell, Republicans? Hey, real quick, conservatives. If you are sick of folks talking about being gay all the time, quit bringing it up. You would be shocked how little on the left that is discussed. Not that we don't know folks are gay. It's not that we don't use the pronouns people will ask us to use, because that's simple manners. It's just not an issue. Frankly, not something I think about at all, unless a conservative psychopath is trying to assault somebody over it. So I have to think about it every day. Get a hold of yourselves, for Christ's sake. As conservative lawmakers attempt to pass legislation limiting their rights and keeping discussion of gender identity out of schools. Again, I've never heard so much discussion of gender identity in schools, but for the Republicans that keep bringing it up. Conservatives with nothing better to do than to bother people. Apparently you don't have real problems. Good for you. Don't add to everybody else's by being insufferable cunts. Inhumously annoying people. While President Joe Biden has defended transgender athletes' ability to compete, support for transgender athletes has declined over the past 2 years, regardless of political affiliation. Because we apparently don't understand that games are games. A recent Gallup poll found 69% of Americans agree that transgender athletes should play sports on teams that match their birth gender. I literally don't care. If you're competitive, be competitive. Don't try to get your competition away on a technicality. That's cowardly. Up from 62% in 2021, where we could also go to hell, all of us. While Republicans and independents are more likely to take that stance, 48% of Democrats agree that transgender athletes should compete on sports teams that match their birth gender, an increase from 41% who felt that way in 2021. Real quick, if you are on any political party, remember just two things. Number one, sports are by definition games. Really, truly, the whole point of it is that it's supposed to be a fun pastime. And two, if you think if you're a lady who was assigned that gender at birth and it was correct, and you're out there competing, and you're terrified by somebody who was assigned the gender of male at birth, who is now on hormones, to become to look more feminine, and the idea of competing against them freaks you out, I don't take you seriously as a competitor. I say this as a child that wrestled adults because in my league, it was such an unpopular sport. There weren't enough children to wrestle. Did I win? No. No, I lost thoroughly. But it was a hell of a lot of fun because, and try to grasp this, it was a game. However, Starr said the man did not. All right, let's do it. The man at the Canada meet caused such a scene, even asking the girl's mother, Heidi Starr, for a certificate of proof that her daughter was a female, that he was asked to leave, and the event was moved to a different area. Do you think that man was being serious? Let me just ask you this. Do you think that man, who presumably had a female relative of some sort there, female assigned at birth relative, do you think he was carrying around a certificate that proved that at birth she was assigned female as a gender, also known as the doctor's best guess based on the physical evidence at hand? Do you think he had that? I bet he didn't. So why would he assume that Heidi over here would have that? He didn't. He was just trying to be an asshole. However, Starr said the man did not leave and continued to cause a scene. She told Newsweek that while the man was demanding proof that her daughter was born female, his wife called her and the girl's other mother genital mutilators, groomers, and pedophiles. Starr said that the man claimed that her daughter and another girl with short hair should be disqualified from competing. The event negatively impacted Starr's daughter, who shook and cried. You proud of yourself, conservatives? Making little girls cry? You go to a track meet. As usual, everything's got to be all about you and how you can make a big damn deal about how aggrieved you are, about how you can weasel in an opportunity to make somebody feel bad. You proud of yourselves? I was just real sympathetic to the J6ers because I'm trying to be honest. Trying to be honest about cause and effect. This right here, I'm going to be honest with you about that too. You ought to be ashamed. If you're an American conservative, you caused this, you miserable cunt. I'm not even going to play a word game with that. I'm calling you a see you next Tuesday. Just let me spell that out. You ought to be ashamed. Take responsibility for this. Knock it off. Or decent folks are going to start knocking your goddamn teeth in, because that's really the only answer for this behavior. That's the only correct way to handle folks that act this way. And I acknowledge that is itself immature. But guess what? Not everybody on the left is mature. And you're going to run across idiots from time to time that lose their cool when they see you acting like this, because right is right and wrong is wrong. And in this case, the conservatives, as in most cases, are just wrong. That is why you are the kind of marks that Trump was able to trick into doing crimes for him. Mull that over for a while. And by the way, I want to talk about what you can do. We're going to do this on the outside. It's not as immature as I'm making it seem. What you can do is really simple. Show that article to people in your life who are mouthing off like this. Show that article to people that want to harass trans little boys and girls. You know, just looking to bother kids. It's the way of the conservative. All excuses that they can find to bother kids. Show that article to them. And ask them who checks. Who's the person you put in charge of checking the genitals of children? Let them deal with that. Ask them which person in that story they are more like. Are they more like the parents? Are they more like the school, just trying to keep order? Or are they like the godless heathen bothering little girls at a track meet? If it looks like they feel bad, tell them good. They should feel bad. And they can stop feeling bad when they change their ways. Gonna try to be cool now because this is a day of celebration. That just it got me a little angry. The Anticorporatist, honestly, this is a distraction. We shouldn't be wasting our time with this. We should be organizing. No, it's not a distraction. This is the core of the problem. Letting them get away with nonsense has been where this all comes from. Letting them behave like savages is the problem. This is where Trump gets his foot soldiers. January 6th, as I was saying in the first segment, doesn't happen unless Trump has the foot soldiers. It also doesn't happen unless Trump points them. Doesn't happen unless Oath Keepers open the doors for him. But there had to be fuel to run that ignorance engine. And that was it. Address this behavior. Yeah, all of this is downstream of culture. And this person thought he was in a culture that would be okay with him harassing little girls. Make it clear that it is not. And yes, Wicked Foxy Dragon, it's because they had short hair. The Anticorporatist. He may or may not have had anyone he knows competing. They should have detained him so that we could find out. Yeah, I agree. Inflation is the only thing they can do, says Bo. Yep. Dawned on me. In the 1970s, I had a pixie. No one ever thought I was a boy. Yeah, I like the pixie cut. Dawned on me. And, well, let me start with Mars Falcon. Terrorist. Yes. Dawned on me. So they banned this guy from the school district. Okay, how long will it take for another horde bigot to appear again? You know what? It's going to depend on how quickly he was banned and how embarrassing they made it. Honestly, the way to handle this, you print that guy's picture in the next school newspaper. This guy, never coming back here. Banned for life, not allowed to go to these events. This fool made a scene, and we should all laugh at him. That's truly my immature outburst aside. That's really the correct way to handle it. Shame them. Make it awkward to exist in that community. He showed his ass to the whole community. The proper thing for this guy to do now should be to pack up, leave, pretend he was never that person, and try to act like a decent person in the next town. But simply have no patience whatsoever with these folks because they are us using kid gloves with them has made this problem fester. And I think, if I'm being honest, part of the anger from myself here comes from the fact that I'm the most guilty of it. I was a live and let live person for way too long. We got some better news, though. Well, it ain't all dark and dismal. In fact, there's a lot of really positive signs out there. A lot of the work you guys have been doing, spreading the word about Trump's involvement in this stuff, it's paying off. And it's making it so that Trump is simply not a viable candidate. And it's starting to really piss off everybody who is not in a bright red gerrymandered district. And for evidence of that, I give you a wonderful piece by Farron Cousins, who runs the channel Fair and Balanced, I think formerly Ring of Fire, or maybe he just has two channels now. But nonetheless, it was a suggestion by, I believe, Franny P. Thank you very much. Let's have a look because it's a blast.
So far, the only Republican serving in Congress that has actually come out and said, you know what, Donald Trump deserves this, has been Mitt Romney.
Oof.
Other than that, pretty much every other Republican out there, you got Jim Jordan, Troy Neal, Josh Hawley, Kevin McCarthy, Elise Stefanik, Chuck Grassley, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all of these people, and many, many more, including plenty in conservative media, have all come out and publicly condemned the investigators, talked about how rigged the system is. This is an abuse of justice. Clay Higgins even called for a civil war, and Republicans didn't say anything about that.
By the way, we gonna have to deal with that. We are gonna have to deal with Clay Higgins. And to be continued on that little punk. But don't worry, this is going somewhere that I think you'll be pleased with.
But here's what's funny about all of this. Some of these individuals, I think like your Gates, your Greens, your Jordans, they genuinely are upset that Donald Trump has been indicted. Most of these other figures, no. They are as happy as a pig in slop that Donald Trump has been indicted. And here is why. Right now, a vast majority of voters here in the United States say that they do not want Donald Trump to run for president again. A majority of people in the United States say that they support the indictments against Donald Trump. A majority believe that he is guilty. A majority say that if he is found guilty, he should not be allowed to run for office ever again. Do you see where I'm going with this pattern? A majority of voters don't ever want to see Trump in the White House again. I don't care what the polls right now say that, oh, Trump's beaten Biden by so many points. No, he's actually not. Not when you look at the other polls that show the real public opinion of Donald Trump. So here's what I'm saying. These Republicans that are out there shaking their fists saying, I'm so mad at Jack Smith. You know what they're doing behind the scenes? They're popping the champagne, right? They're pouring themselves a big old glass of anything that's not Bud Light, of course, because that's too woke for them. And they're kicking up their heels, and they're enjoying the fact that Jack Smith, that special prosecutor, is taking care of the Republican Party's biggest problem. That's what's happening here. Now, they're not going to admit that. We're never going to see pictures of it. We're not going to see video of these Republicans smiling and laughing and dancing behind the scenes. But I promise you, it's happening.
If he is correct, and I show this to you in part because of the next one we're going to show. If he's correct, you'll be able to measure it in how they talk about the other candidates for president. I think you'll find the harsher things get for Trump, the more people start talking nice about Chris Christie. God help us, DeSantis. Maybe not Mike Pence, but the others.
They all know what a liability Donald Trump is for the Republican ticket all the way from top to bottom in 2024. I talked about that the other day. Even Donald Trump's allies in the House and Senate admit that, yeah, this guy's probably going to be bad for us next year. So even if they are legitimately mad at the special prosecutor, part of them is grateful. Because if Donald Trump gets convicted, there is no way in hell that he is going to get anybody to vote for him other than his die-hard MAGA apparel-wearing freaks. Ooh. And Republicans know that. So if they can get somebody else to remove Donald Trump so that they don't have to get their hands dirty, then they get to appeal to the MAGA crowd and say, oh, we're so mad with you, but we got to move on now, though, so come on with us. We're your Republican friends. We're gonna take you. We're gonna fill the void in your life. And they're gonna have that little sneaky smile creep across their face at the end because they know that they got rid of the biggest problem within their party for the day. And they didn't have to lift a finger to do it. So don't believe when you hear these Republicans out there acting so mad and righteous about what's happening, because deep down, they all know what a liability
Yeah. Okay. I agree. We don't really have the evidence yet. We do have that report that came out where all these people, as with the entirety of Trump's presidency, behind the scenes, all these cowards are saying, oh, we don't like him, though. Oh, we don't like him. But what's different now? It's different. What's changed now? There's somewhere to go. There is actually the ability for these folks to join up with another person. And yes, they're gonna be gun shy. Yes, they're gonna stick with the raw stuff until they get even the slightest hint that that somebody else is viable. At which point, get ready to see the knives come out. Get ready to see this Trump support collapse fast. As fast as it coalesced behind him, I expect to see it bleed out. Why? Because Barron isn't wrong. It's annoying for people trying to build careers to have to carry this windbag the entire time. And there's people who stand now to benefit from harming Trump. Ooh, boy, oh boy, oh boy. That means, just like we were saying with Liz Cheney during the January 6th proceedings, you're going to get one of my favorite things, which is Republicans talking bad about each other, because Democrats don't know how to stick and twist. But Republicans sure do. And because Republicans are used to fighting Democrats who are all, I say, sir, we shall have an honorable duel, they're not really prepared for the kind of attacks that Republicans do. I give you Christie, who I do not like, but nonetheless, I like what he's doing here. Because he's sticking and he's twisted.
Perhaps the most full-throated critic the former president has on this subject among his Republican primary opponents, former New Jersey Governor Christie, who, of course, I should remind everyone, will be joining Anderson Monday night for a CNN town hall, which I will be eagerly watching. Governor Christie, thanks so much for joining us and popping in to give your reaction on this important.
For the record, that's not the corpse of Christie. That's just what he looks like. Ditto for Jake Tapper.
Day. Last night you said no one's above the law, but you wanted to wait and read the indictment before reacting, which, you know, frankly seems like a responsible thing to do. Now you've read it.
Ha.
What do you think?
Oh, Jake, look, you know, for folks who may not remember this, I did this for 7 years as the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, the 5th largest U.S. Attorney's office out of the 93 in the country. Brought 130 political corruption prosecutions against Republicans and Democrats and didn't lose one. So I know how this stuff works. And the fact is that these facts are devastating. You know, you have a president who, according to the indictment, directed the packing of those boxes in terms of what to take, directed where they should go to Mar-a-Lago, directed where they went while they were inside Mar-a-Lago, directed them to move to Bedminster during the summer when he would spend his summers in New Jersey. And then when requests came, starting in May of 2021, informal requests, he continued to stonewall them and not return the documents. Then, when a subpoena came, asked his lawyers, Jake, whether or not we even have to respond to it. Do we have to play ball? You know, and then tried to get them to lie on his behalf. And when he knew they wouldn't, and his own lawyer had to make recordings to protect himself, when he knew they wouldn't, he directed his folks to hide boxes from his own lawyer in order not to turn these documents over to the government. Look, you know, people are going to argue about who should and who should not have been indicted and who should be tried. But let me say this. The bigger issue for our country is this the type of conduct that we want from someone who wants to be president of the United States? To take national security documents involving warfare and our nuclear program, to keep them in their home when they're not allowed to do so, exposing them to potentially being seen by any number of people, and then actually showing them to people.
Okay. This played, I believe, yesterday. I think yesterday. Maybe the day before. Regardless, it's Christie talking on CNN. Are you getting all the Republicans watching CNN? No. Are you getting nearly as much as watch Fox? No. But it's Christie. He's a draw. CNN ain't nothing. And a lot of folks do watch it. Now, how many saw this, saw Christie addressing the main public strategy by Donald Trump, which is to say, what about? Oh, but Hillary, somebody who's not running. Oh, but this, that, and the other person. Christie already prepping them for that talking point. Then what else did they see? If they're watching Fox, if they switched to the old reliable, or more accurately, the old unreliable, what else did they see? They saw the crazies who were out there backing Trump. All of Republican politics is based off culture. It's just a culture war, and they ask themselves every day, who do I want to beat? Who do I want to look like? What vibe am I picking? I think they'd rather be Christie and the sort of people that support him, just based off vibes, than they would the kind of folks that are out there looking shell-shocked supporting Trump, muttering nonsense. Then Trump goes out and gives a big, long speech. And what does he say? I'm going to guess tonight what he was saying was, what about this person? What about that person? Christie right off the bat addressed that point like that. I don't care about the other folks. You have choices other than Trump or those other folks. Do you want somebody who handles national secrets, whether or not he said they are still secrets or not, irresponsibly? Do you want somebody like that in power? Is he going to sway tons of Republican voters? No. Can Trump afford to lose any? Well, I'll tell you, before January 6th happened, he couldn't muster enough to beat Joe Biden, who wasn't the incumbent. If your concern is that Trump will get elected president again, I would say you can rest easy. We could have lots of problems. In fact, we're going to have to do lots of work to have as much or more turnout than we did in 2020, because we need to fix all of these problems forever by winning the House, Senate, and White House. But take heart, my friends. Take heart. Because this is the kind of messaging you're going to hear more and more of, and it is devastating to the MAGA crowd.
Off. This is irresponsible conduct. And look, at the time when Hillary Clinton was not charged, I argued against that. I think she should have been charged.
Boom.
I think that was a mistake. And during the Russia investigation, I was one of the people who spoke out and said, I didn't think Donald Trump had anything to do with it. I was involved with the campaign, and I didn't think there was anything to the Russian collusion as it applied to Donald Trump. So I've spoken out against those things when I think they were wrong. But just because they were wrong doesn't justify the conduct that he engaged in. And I think we have to focus on the conduct, Jake. And the conduct is bad. And it is bad for anybody in this country to do it, but it's particularly awful for someone who has been president and who aspires to be president again.
So, as a former U.S. attorney,
Devastating.
Does this look like a case that you would theoretically have brought had you been assigned?
You know, I don't know all the facts, Jake, but I'll tell you this. It's a very, very evidence-filled indictment. What you can tell as a trained person reading this is they have tape recordings. they have electronic text messages and emails, and then they have the testimony of dozens of people who were right around Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago and in Bedminster over time. Those are all the elements of the things you need to bring a case like this. And so what I would say is that it looks like these prosecutors and their partners at the FBI thoroughly investigated this. And it looks like the only two people who did not cooperate with the government are Donald Trump and Walt Nauta. And I think that's why they're on the wrong side of the V, as we say in the business, and have been charged in this case.
I mean, there you go. On top of everything, willing to go where Donald Trump is afraid to, talking about the actual facts of the case. That is an arena he can keep dragging Donald Trump into, where Donald Trump has shown no ability to defend himself, because he can't. The point is, it gives Christie an opportunity to make Trump look bad and to give people who would have been Trump voters a dignified option. They can hold on to their identity as a Biden-hating whatever and vote for somebody else. What can you do? Show that CNN clip. Show that CNN clip to your MAGA voting friends, if you've got them. Ask them what they think. And I think you'll find in the moment, they won't think much of it, but they'll keep thinking about it. And the next time Trump says, what about? You say, yeah, what about? Arrest them too. How about you vote for somebody that didn't break the law, that you're confident didn't break the law? It's going to get worse for Trump. And there's going to be institutional support. There's going to be elected people who are sick to death of Trump, who are looking for an opportunity. And if they see a stumble, they're going to work hard to make it into a tumble. They're going to try to push this orange windbag over the edge. I can't wait. Let's see what y'all have to say. Jess Rush, I'm still mad about Melania cutting down Jackie's rose bushes. Of course she did. Of course she did. Oh. Mars Falcon, the invitation list to the Rose Garden for a 4th of July picnic is property of the National Archives. Every document is, for history and posterity. This is the law. I fail to understand the tangent. I know what Trump said. Trump said that he had the ability to, that it was his ability to decide whether or not documents belong to him or not. I don't know how to address that other than to say it's simply not true. No, he did not. Oh, it's wild. Did anybody see Bo's video, says Wireless Mike, about the leniency the judge showed Ol' Rump? I think, yeah, Eileen Cannon showing him leniency in previous cases, or the judge today? I don't know. Mars Falcon, the answer, Jake, is that they do not care. Hate makes no sense. They just like a person that hurts folks. Yeah, but there are different kinds of Republicans. And if you're talking about the folks that were out there today, like the two old white ladies wearing Blacks for Trump's t-shirt or Blacks for Trump t-shirts, no, you're right. They're just reveling in the hate. But think about the guy that also carries hate in his heart, but has to show his face at local business gatherings. What do you call it? Chamber of Commerce meetings. Lifelong Republican, enjoys pretending to vote like fiscally conservative, that kind of guy. Even though we've demonstrated now that being fiscally conservative just means being fiscally irresponsible. That person, the lady who owns an ice cream shop and votes for Republicans because she thinks she's going to be a millionaire if she keeps doing it. That kind of person. That is who Chris Christie will pull away from Trump. And there will be 5-10% for each candidate that's running right now that gets pulled away from Trump, somewhere in there. And when they dip out of the race, yeah, most of them will go back to Trump or whoever the leader is in the race at that time, probably Trump. But not all of them will. And he's going to trickle a percentage here, a percentage there. And this is all from a guy that cannot afford, he needs to pick up voters somehow. And the people that voted against him in 2020, the biggest concern for me was that they would forget how bad he was, that they would fall for Republican talking points thinking that Joe Biden was somehow worse or as bad as Trump, and they would go vote for Trump again. Well, Trump's basically taken care of that by reminding us every day through the various crimes he has apparently committed that he is an irresponsible psychopath. and not even a responsible psychopath. So he's doing a hell of a good job of making sure those people that came out not to vote for Joe Biden, but to vote against Trump, those 7, 8 million, that they're still going to be there if Trump's on the ticket. So any scenario where Trump is seriously running for president, I would say we don't have to worry about him being president. There's plenty we have to worry about in that scenario, but Trump actually being president is probably not one of them. I will also stress that's not even, in my opinion, the most dangerous thing that could happen. So, just to temper expectations. In my opinion, most dangerous thing that can happen is somebody who says they're going to pardon Trump gets elected, and then they do pardon Trump. That's awful. Then things get really bad. But I realize where Trump is with the Republican polls right now. I would just say Trump announced his candidacy super early. And he did so because he was trying to dodge charges. But the reason it's so early is because, good Lord, things change fast. And parties don't generally like spending a lot of money on campaigns this early because things do change so fast. And when you're doing political messaging, when you're trying to do and this is coming from a guy who ran them on his TV station, or the one he worked for, by God, not owned. But when you're doing political ads and you're spending money and you're doing events and what have you, it doesn't really help you to talk about the events of the day a year before the election. So what's going to change between now and then? Well, there's a bunch of free anti-Trump ads in the form of everybody paying attention to the crimes he did. And the Republican Party will have spent, even though they raised a ton of money off of these indictments, they're also going to have to spend a ton of it. And they're already spending money running against each other. What is left of the Republican Party in 2024 is going to be interesting to see. It's going to have to be taken deadly seriously because we have got to not just beat them, but whip them thoroughly. We actually want to pull this country out of a nosedive. And my God, maybe do some work to help the rest of the world after we've made it much worse. But I still think I'm cautiously optimistic about Trump's actual fate in all this. And I really do want to stress, before, he was only endangering us, really. Before, think about what he looked like from a billionaire's perspective, from the powers that be's perspective. He was a mortal danger to us, but they don't give a damn about us. He was going to sign the checks for him, right? I'm sorry, I just said that. I hate saying right. That was the pitch that was communicated to them, at least, through the media. Well, turns out he was a disaster for the economy. Turns out he threatened to make America an autocracy. And most importantly, he threatened to try to take their power. They're the top dogs in their eyes. He tried to make a president more powerful than billionaires. No, they're not going to put up with him a second time. The powers that be, including those in the military, those in the military-industrial complex, those in truly big business, they're not going to waste their money on Trump. They're going to get a Trump equivalent if they can, but it's just not a smart investment. It's not the greedy thing to do. It just so happens to be that what is greedy and what is decent coincidentally align this time. In my humble opinion. Mars Falcon, ditto Rex Trek. Oh, I'll start with Rex Trek then. I've made a claim I might not be able to back up. Oh well. Are more equal. If you haven't seen the stories about how Fox got started, referring to what I was talking about last stream, I recommend looking that up. Yeah, with Roger Ailes talking to Nixon and specifically saying that they need a pro-Republican info network. Yes. Rex Trek, Boomer, 63 here. Delighted to have you, brother. Oh, yes. Please do hit that thumbs up button. Are more equal. I'll admit, with Innuendo Studios, I knew conservatives thought in the pyramid and more or less liked it. It's obvious, but the fact that they like it, I honestly missed that part for a long time. It makes sense. Yeah, well put. Oh, mercy me. Well, I'll tell you what. One of the great benefits of this era of politics, let's say, is that Democrats, and I'm shocked by this. Democrats have actually learned how to make a case for themselves. I know, it's insane, right? But they have. They've learned how to do their homework and actually say what the facts are to the face of people that are lying. Look, a lot of us have been watching these folks for years, and it's hard to believe. So, my man Brian Tyler Cohen has given us video evidence of it. Let's record it. We'll talk about it. Something that is it's really hard for me to acknowledge is true is the fact that Democrats seem to have found somewhere in the closet, they dusted it off, and sure enough, there it is, a backbone. Huh. Brian Tyler Cohen brings us the video proof with a recent interview on Fox. I don't want to link to Fox. I'd rather link to Brian Tyler Cohen. Also, if you're going to show this to your MAGA friends, and by the way, everything today, that's what you can do. Show this to MAGA folks. We have to chip away. if you get the opportunity. If you get the opportunity. If you're going to show something to MAGA folks, I would prefer it be this cat by the name of Brian Tyler Cohen. Here he is.
I think his policies are failing.
CHIPS Act, Science Act, do you oppose that?
I will tell you on every measure, from the economy, inflation, borders, energy, national security, he's missing in action.
Let's talk about them in order. Let's
Well,
talk
hang on.
Wait, but I want to challenge the premise. You said the economy, 13.1 million jobs he's created. More.
These are post-COVID jobs.
Okay.
You know that.
Well,
I mean, that's an artificial number.
No. Then let me stipulate this as an opportunity to engage civilly on this.
Okay.
Fair point. Your president, Donald Trump, lost 2.6 million jobs during his 4 years. We've created 13.1 million. Fine, you can maintain a COVID frame. How about the fact that Joe Biden's created more jobs, 6 times more jobs than the previous 3 Republican presidents combined?
Are you going to tell me
Sean,
that the average family, where we have 2/3 of Americans now living paycheck to paycheck,
it was 70% under Trump? That was 70%. It was 70% under Donald Trump.
Pre-COVID, we had the lowest unemployment rate for every demographic.
We have the lowest black unemployment in history, and you and I are living with the lowest unemployment in our lifetime, Sean.
We had it for every demographic, and the economy was
black unemployment's record low under Joe Biden.
Okay. We had historic low after historic low under Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. I mean, but he's cleaned Trump's clock, Biden, in terms of the progress in job creation. Look at what he's done on jobs.
What would you grade Joe Biden's presidency? Because you're at odds with the American people and the Democratic Party.
I'm just dealing with the facts. I'm dealing with the facts.
What is your grade for
I'm going to go back. Let's talk. You brought up 6 topics.
You got to answer some questions.
I'm answering the ones in order. You brought up the economy.
That's my favorite part right there. Right there. Well, you got to answer some questions. He's freaking out. What is he doing? He's trying to do Sean Hannity is attempting to invert the Gish gavel, where he throws so many questions at Gavin Newsom, whatever. The California centrist Dem who I rarely like, but right now I love. He's trying to throw so many questions at him that Gavin Newsom, there we are, will have to just by default pick the one he cares most about, not address the rest, and make it seem like he only had one kind of good answer, but the rest he couldn't even touch. Except what did Newsom do? His homework. How did he address the questions? One at a time. And he was whooping Hannity so bad that Hannity, who's not, if you're relying on the Gish gavel, if that's your only way to survive, you're not terribly well-versed. He's going through one at a time, and then he calls Hannity on that. And he says, yeah, well, you asked a bunch of questions. I'm answering them one at a time. And he's not letting Hannity get away with any little dig, because he knows that to the Republicans watching, they won't understand any of it, and simply by design. That's how it is designed to be. That's the point of the Gish gavel. They won't understand any of it, but they'll hear Hannity chime in with one thing or another, and they'll be listening for Gavin Newsom. You have a dumb name, Newsom. Governor Newsom, there we go. To not address it so that they can say, okay, so Hannity was right there. But he's not letting him do that. He's verbally beating the piss out of Hannity in front of his own cameras. I cannot believe they aired this. Well, Newsom would have made a big deal about it if they didn't. Delightful.
On the economy, let's talk about the economy.
You want to give him an A?
Inflation, stubborn around the globe. Let's talk about inflation. It's down 40% since last summer, 10 months in a row, 4.9%. He was just with the UK Prime Minister at 6.9%. Is that because of Biden's?
I think Biden's economic and energy policies
directly impacted the UK's inflation?
No, I am.
Or the fact that France is 5.5% or Germany's at 6.1%? On inflation, we're moving in the right direction. On the issue of the border security,
he inherited one
Oh, God. Real quick. Just real quick. Please, look at this. Look at this face. Now, it's not playing right now, but watch how long poor Hannity just short circuits.
Or the fact that France is 5.5% or Germany's at 6.1% on inflation, we're moving in the right direction. On the issue of the border security,
he inherited 1.4% inflation. It went up to 40-year high after 40-year high.
Globally, because you just brought up, you were making an excuse for Trump's dismal jobs record related to COVID.
It wasn't a
but you
dismal
won't acknowledge
jobs record.
COVID's relationship to inflation globally.
Boom.
And by the way, COVID and immigration impacting our inflation.
Let me stop you.
Begging.
All right, so I would assume
that's
you're going to give...
Begging for that bell to ring. Just about ready to throw in the towel. I think I hear the bell. I think that's the end of the route. We got to go back to our quarters. Hey, does anybody else see Jesus? That's a whooping.
We're going to give Biden an A.
And that right there is what it looks like when a Fox host who spends every single day in his echo chamber is actually confronted with someone capable of dealing in facts. And that was put on full display when Hannity naively decided to list a bunch of standard nebulous buzzwords that Republicans use to criticize Democrats on, only when they criticize Democrats on them, there aren't ever any Democrats to push back. And now, when there is a Democrat to push back, it puts on full display just how baseless those talking points are. And so Hannity starts blindly assailing Democrats on the economy, on inflation, the border, energy, national security, only to freeze like a deer in headlights when Newsom decides to actually engage with him on any of those topics. Now, there's hardly much I can say that Newsom didn't already say to Hannity's face, but there are some points that I can expand
Oh, what the hell? Let's let him expand.
on. Like, for example, when Hannity discards the fact that Biden's overseeing the addition of 13.1 million jobs because, quote, those are post-COVID jobs, suggesting that all the jobs that were just added during Biden's presidency were the ones lost to COVID. Only small problem, those jobs lost during COVID were fully recovered back in July of 2022. For the last year, the U.S. economy has added yet another 3.1 million jobs beyond those jobs lost during COVID. And of course, that's on top of the fact that we have near 50-year low unemployment. We've got record black unemployment. We've got the highest percent GDP growth compared to all G7 countries. So for anyone to suggest that this is not a strong economy is already absurd unto itself. But when you realize that the people criticizing this economy are the same ones defending the guy who lost 2.9 million jobs, that's when you know they're just hacks blinded by their own partisanship. Also, one point on the jobs lost during Trump's term. I know that Republicans love to pretend that COVID doesn't count for him, but Trump's handling of COVID is why that many jobs were lost. Losing millions of jobs didn't happen in spite of Trump. It happened in part because of him. He was the president. Remember, the U.S. had 20% of the world's cases and deaths, despite having only 5% of the world's population. That is not an accident. It is the direct result of piss-poor leadership. Just like...
Yes, sir. No notes for Brian Tyler Cohen. That's a great clip to show folks around the old internet. Look, I know it's not fun reaching out to MAGA folks, and I'll even go so far as to say our plans for 2024 should not be based around swaying enough MAGA voters to get what we want. But the plans we will be pursuing, organizing like-minded individuals to vote in the primaries, and then when we have, hopefully, a great set of candidates for the general, going out en masse to ensure we get a blue House, Senate, and White House. All those plans are going to be easier if there are less MAGA adherents out there. And in 2023, it's a lot easier to plant the seeds of future wedge issues for 2024. There's going to be that 0.5% of GOP voters that are swayed by this indictment of Donald Trump. There's going to be those folks who saw that Brian Tyler Cohen clip because you showed it to them. And don't fall for the ranting about the jobs numbers because somebody else who didn't see that clip tries those lines out. And they're just not swayed by those lines because they remember what a fool God damn it, Governor Newsom made Sean Hannity look like. There's going to be that 1 or 2% of voters, GOP voters, that end up really liking Chris Christie and his attitude and his ability to be bigoted without looking quite so foolish, without breaking the law directly. And are they going to come out and vote for Democrats? No. They're just going to stay home. That's a realistic plan. What I would do is don't waste your time. Don't exhaust yourself trying to show every single clip to every single person. But if you've got somebody in your life who's either going down this rabbit hole or has gone down this rabbit hole and is repeating a lot of the same talking points that were addressed here, pick one of these and show it to them. Most of the time when we're trying to sway government, that takes the form of writing an email to somebody. Most of the time when we're trying to sway voters, it's just going to be sending them a piece of media to watch. Maybe they'll watch it, maybe they won't, but they'll know there is a response for their talking points. And odds are, if they're using those talking points, they're going to be just a little bit curious. That's your in. You won't get them all. You'll get some. And some is all you need sometimes. And in 2023, we have the luxury of time, which means we can take a lot of these shots, trusting that we only need 1 or 2 to hit. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say. Are more equal. The right-wing media does that a lot. True. With the if you're talking about the Gish gavel, that's basically all they've got. Jess Rush, I'm okay with them staying home and not voting. More for us. Yeah. If they were voting, they would vote for. Even if we got them to vote for Democrats, they would vote for the worst Democrats, generally speaking. So, I'm fine with them staying home as long as they're not out there supporting, actual terrorists. The Anticorporatist, such a good point. I don't know why no one ever brings up the defunding of the pandemic prevention team that we previously had in Wuhan. Shaking my head. 100%. 100%. I don't know how to say your name. Correct me. I'm going to take a whack at it. Iron Sapidra. Oh, and now you've become a member. Hell yeah. All right. 5th grade graduations, kindergarten graduations. Don't get me started on the participation trophies. Yes. I mean, yeah. Here's a true story. First of all, delighted to have you. Welcome to the Friends of Doors. Awesome. Second, every time we get a new member, we try to do something special. It's going to take the form of an embarrassing true story. I was once on a lacrosse team when I was a wee lad. My only achievement was stopping a single goal from going in the net. I did so because the kid that threw it directly in my crotch, and I didn't wear a cup because it chafed, and I didn't care to be in the thick of it normally, and I wasn't normally the goalie. And so I immediately keeled over, and that was it for the rest of the game for me. Other highlights from that team included the time my coach pulled me off the field and said, "Dragelis, what the hell? I told you if I see you out there not running as fast as you can, I'm going to pull you off." To which I, a husky child said, "I thought we had a deal. I'm out there trotting. What are you doing? You said you were going to pull me out. I thought that was our code." So when it came time for trophies, this suburban dad who was just trying to bond with his kid by coaching lacrosse, there was one trophy left on the table, and it said most improved, and I was the only kid with no trophy. And he looked at the trophy and he looked at me and he's like, "You know, I was like, in good conscience, no, of course not. I've put in no effort, sir." I actually got along really well with that coach, but I was a terrible lacrosse player. There you go. Never let your old pal Jake dare make fun of any other athlete. Oh, I have a similar story from youth, says Irebin, that ended my baseball career. Oh, no. I gotta hear that at some point, man. The Anticorporatist, cool. I midfield in high school and goalie in college. Oh, shit, so you were an actual player. I was a Little League player. It's very different. I was mostly there so that my parents had some peace in the afternoons. There's a trick with the cups. Always coated them with spongy tape. See, I wish there would have been folks on my team that could have told me that. Because when you're a husky lad, it gets the thighs. It's not fun. Dawned on me, I'm a progressive, and Biden has let me down with what he hasn't gotten done and impressed me on things that he has gotten done. You just summed up my feelings exactly on the man. So I think with a Blue House Senate, he can do far more. Not enough, but more. Yes. And I think we as a collective are learning how to push these people, which is perhaps the most important thing. Our more equal small press publishing, video game publishing, and selling collectibles on eBay and Amazon and occasionally other sites. You have a very interesting life. Oh, no, I won't say what. I don't want to dox myself. All right, well, let me know, Secret Susans, if there's something I can plug of yours, and we'll let a stream or two go by so people don't know who's who. But I'd love to plug your stuff. I don't do commercials in this show. I don't have any plans on doing commercials. But surely we can sell a couple copies of something. I'd be delighted just for the hell of it. There are a lot of right-wingers out there that don't like me. You are correct to be safe. The Anticorporatist, nah, I was terrible. Our first string goalie broke his arm. Yeah, we had a similar situation. I sympathize. 2 streams later, buy this book. Yeah, totally. I'll do a Jay Sherman with it. Just buy this book. I'm going to do it with my daddy's book. You better believe it. Why not? Also, I do, frankly, really like the idea, and I've been musing over this. Let me know in the Wicked Senate here, the live folks, what you think. Fake commercials. I've seen funny ones on YouTube. I just like the idea of when I'm changing other things up behind the scenes, setting up the next clip, playing a fake commercial, or just doing one ourselves. Like, welcome to Psycho Pete's Knifery. Look, my name's Psycho Pete. I got a knife. You need a guy that's a psycho with a knife to do something, maybe you call me up. Or just come to the alley behind the 7-Eleven in Wichita. I don't know. It sounds like a fun thing. Well, I do have to say, on that totally unrelated to anything we've been talking about note, the Anticorporatist, tell your wife your old pal Jake's rooting for her. I hope she gets well soon. On those various unrelated notes, I think that's a show, y'all. We're going to be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. as always with more What You Can Do. Going to be a little bit more varied. This one was a little more focused on the just getting the word out there to MAGA folks. Really want to remind you, if you get the opportunity, if you have someone who's on the fence, if you have someone who's swayable, if you have someone that considers themselves a little bit more of a business Republican than a culture war Republican, pick and choose which one clip, just one, you think they ought to see. Links are in the description. Play them. Play the clips for them. Find an excuse. We have the unsubscribe challenge. Or you can just say, check out this thing. I don't know. I'd be interested in a Republican's take. Let me know what you think. find an excuse to play it for him. And we're going to use the fact that we have time on our side, that Trump has given us that advantage, to convince some of these folks not to support the people they've been supporting. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. I'll see you next time.